January 18th, Site Committee audio test.
she's coming.
All right, you're live.
We know about Carolyn?
Who's the alternate? Do we know who the alternate? We have one?
You were
Yeah, we usually have one since Carolyn may be the alternate. Julie's gonna look. It doesn't matter as long as we know who. Are you on site?
Nate is.
Change it every year.
It's either you or Carolyn, I think. I can't remember which one.
I don't think it's me, because I think I would know, because I like it.
When you wait, Julie?
Well, no, we don't need to wait and, because we're not.
Here she is. Here she is.
Did you figure out who's on the site committee?
That's what I was just doing.
Nate is.
Well, I need to go back and look at the February minutes from last.
Let's go ahead and get our site committee started here. And Hal, you're just gonna turn it over to Brian, understand, right?
Pretty much, yes, sir.
Okay.
We're good?
Yep.
Okay. Do we need to do the welcome and pledge?
We don't want to do that for this, do we?
No.
Okay.
Well, Happy New Year to everybody.
And you-
So there's a lot of projects that we've been involved with here, trying to scope and define. I guess back before the holidays, meeting with Hal, Dr. Dyer, staff. And so just going to kind of give you an update on where we are with each of those. The one that we have pushed to be able to go ahead and get out to bid was the resurfacing of the track at the hospital. So we had looked at that last year. Charlie, you walked it with us, and I think because of the scheduling of the new scoreboard and some of the trenching and work that would be done around it, we deferred that. So Hal wanted to go ahead and get that out to bid so that we were on everybody's radar, because summer is a very busy time for those companies. So that project is out to bid. We have a pre-bid meeting tomorrow. That's where the contractors come and we talk about the bid requirements, and they can see it, they can walk the site, and we can answer any questions for them. And then we're scheduled to open bids on the 27th. So we'll have bids to be able to report back to you towards the end of the month. And I'm just going to go through these, and then I've got some presentation for pretty much the projects at the hospital. But we are looking at window replacement at the hospital in Stewart. And so getting rid of the jalousied windows on the east side, which make no sense for this location and climate. But so the idea there is that we're going to put together a window replacement project. So we'll be working with Hal and the staff to organize that. Then also under the project scope was to re-roof the Denning Center. So that one's in the works. We really haven't gotten started on that one, but we will soon. And then shifting gears over to the hospital, if we could put a presentation.
Brian, before you go on to that, does anybody have any questions about the updates?
Have any windows been replaced at Cleveland High School? Or how many are you talking about replacing?
The east wing, right?
Yeah, the east wing was the plan. The west wing has a different set of windows and all, but we're talking about the east wing, the windows and the knockout.
Those ugly
Those
things.
louver things, yeah.
We've been wanting to get rid of those for years,
Yeah.
So they're not required to be egress windows. They don't have to be operable, because the building's now sprinkled. When it was originally constructed, you had to have egress out of the classrooms directly to the outside. Because the building is sprinkled now, that's not a requirement. So we can simplify that. You know, it'll also improve the energy efficiency too. We'll be able to use a better glass, and it'll also be a thermally broken aluminum framing system, which will help too.
I don't think they were ever used for egress. I don't know if they would even open.
The kids went in and out.
So the window will take up the whole.
Yeah, we'll just pull the old one out and go
And
back
then, you
in.
know how we have the doors in front of the little airy pod, and that's actually an issue. This is gonna allow us to remove those, I think, as well. So now you'll have the windows, and then we'll have those doors out of the way, so you have an open area in the pod. So I think Cliff would probably tell you from a security standpoint, that'll open that up better for you.
Any other questions on updates?
Okay. All right, so shifting, want to focus on the 3 projects at the high school that we've been looking at. The first one, the next slide will show us the entrance. So we were looking at expanding the entrance and redoing the entrance into the high school. That was a project that was utilizing some ESSER funding. So just to kind of get you oriented, this is the existing exterior door window wall there. So that's currently the lobby from here to here. So what we're proposing to do is to take that out. Those were added after the fact. Originally, I believe it was like a covered area that you walked in. And so those were created for a security piece. But that comes out, this column is kind of the addition. We'll see in the renderings, a couple of people had requested that we do something as far as giving some presence to the entry and trying to create something that really tells you, hey, this is the front door to the high school, and to create a good first impression. I'm going to let Hal jump in here in a little bit and talk about timeline and some of the graphic things, opportunities that can take place. But we had designated some seating area. One of the comments that we got from the staff was that this area was very tight. And so if somebody was waiting for an administrator to come get them, there was really no place to kind of get out of the way. And I guess during the busy part. So the idea with this expansion is that we create some seating areas where you could kind of get out of the way and wait and not be in the hustle and bustle. These are the location of the existing aluminum storefront doors. They're pretty worn, and so we'd like to replace those kind of like for like with new hardware, new system. And then we've reconfigured this area. Currently, there's a wall here, and then this is the attendance check-in area. And then SRO is kind of back in this, what we're calling new conference room. So I guess we looked at a couple different options, but where we ended is that we wanted to move, or it was the desire to move the SRO up so they had good visibility. And then we're giving it kind of an equal space along the front with the attendance. The conference room was, I think, a very interesting discussion. Sometimes there are people that come to the building and you may need to have an administrator come and meet with them. Sometimes it's an interpreter, but this gives you a place to kind of go and sit down and discuss what the business is, or what needs to happen there near the front door, and you don't have to go back into the building to do that. So the one thing too to point out here in this drawing is the existing grade from interior to exterior starts here. Since we're incorporating this additional space in the addition at the finished floor grade, we have to make up some grade differential. So there would be kind of a monumental step that you would step up to get into this space, and then we've got a revised handicap access here along the side, which is kind of what's there now. That leads to the handicap parking that we did back when we did the arena. So the next slide. Okay, so this is what we're proposing for the look. All right, what we tried to do was to incorporate some of the materials that we've used on the arena and the science wing. So these are the precast column piers that align Raider Drive. Some of the metal panel work, you see the stair, but we kept hearing from everybody, we want this to create a presence. This is very easy identified as the front door to the high school. So the other thing too is, also heard many people say we want to lift it up, give it some verticality. So we took that as an opportunity to make it transparent. It's a very small addition. It looks bigger than what it is. It has that presence, but you're kind of looking through the space here, the glass, and you're seeing a wall that we think is a great opportunity to use for graphics. So it's a wall kind of above the low, below the high roof and above the low roof. Next slide.
Wait, just a second, Brian.
Okay.
Now I see like 3 steps going up there. How, where is the handicap?
So the handicap is right here, and it would have a connection back here to the sidewalk. So you kind of,
On that side
Yeah.
right there?
and what we want to do, currently it's a 1 in 20 ramp. So it's technically not a ramp, it's just a sloping sidewalk. If it's 1 in 20, then you don't have to have handrails. So that's what we'd like to do, is so that it's without handrails.
Right now, there's no steps, so you're gonna build the steps in order to make it higher, taller.
Well, it's still at the same finished floor, but the current grade slopes out of the building. So as we bring the finished floor out, then we have to make up the differential.
We don't realize that. Oh, I'm sorry, Kate.
Yeah, you don't realize, but it's about 1.5 feet. It's very
Yeah.
It's amazing.
deceiving.
Will those graphics change, be able to be changed? Because
Sure.
I noticed it had, some of the, sports people.
Yeah, we just put that in there just as a, because that's something we could grab off the internet, off the website, but you could do whatever you wanted to with it. It wouldn't have to be athletic. I mean, it could be.
It could be changeable from year to year.
Sure.
Well, Brian, am I seeing this wrong? Though, the new handicap parking spaces, are they not down here to your right?
They're up here to the
They're
left.
Closer to the arena.
Yeah.
There's about 4 or 5 down there close to the arena.
Yeah, it was perfect.
There is some in front there too.
Yeah.
That's the majority of them are down there, almost the area close.
In that new little parking area that we created that you kind of pull off the,
Crystal,
So in the, and it could just be the illustration, but in the illustration, you see all the way through, almost like it's to the back courtyard. Is that just a visual?
that, yeah,
You
that's,
would actually be looking at the attendance desk
Yes.
and the security.
Yeah.
or the SRO.
yeah, the next slide will show that, but,
Oh.
so we're just, in this, again, this can go through a series of comment and refinement, but, there's all kinds of potential for graphics, and you guys do an excellent job with, really, creating an identity through the graphics at the high school level. So we think that this is an opportunity to really play that up and create a presence and a memorable experience when you walk through that door.
Peggy,
That has nothing to do with where the canopy is. The canopy is where you're coming out of the gym. Aren't we putting a canopy for people?
The canopy's
No,
on
that
the
goes-
other side, it's between the science.
science
It's
building,
on the other side.
It's on the other
Okay.
side, between the science building and the arena.
that's very good, because a lot of people come to Cleveland High School. Where's the main entrance at?
Yeah.
They think the science wing is the main.
Well,
Right.
especially since the arena and the science wing, the
Okay.
street presence that they have, so.
What's the height difference between that and the sign, and the entrance for the sign between
This is about 20 feet. So the science wing would be just a little taller. It'd be like 28, something like that. The floor to floor on the science wing was about 14 feet per floor, so it's about 28, 30. This was about 20.
It's kind of hard on the picture to see how grand this will be. Just because, I mean, it's a picture, but if that's what we're, the focus, I don't know that that picture does a good representation of that.
Well, look where the radar course is over there on the side, so that can give you an idea of, that's much grander than anything we've ever had.
Are you gonna move the,
You have to move
Right.
those.
No, it could stay. It's on out in front.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it actually,
Not where
we're
high
not,
school
we're
is.
not representing it, but it's probably like right here.
How tall is that window? From top to bottom?
I think about 16 feet, 14, 16 feet, somewhere in that range. Scale wise,
It looks taller than that.
this is about 11 feet to the top of that brick there. Okay, so that's on the original building, that's where you transition from brick to that mansard blue panel. So you can
Right.
kind of see it, the trees hide it.
Dr. Dyer, you checking this out? which is their. Dr. Dyer. I can see what it is. Go ahead.
I think it looks really pretty.
I love it.
I do too.
The next rendering might answer some of the questions about what the depth is. Okay, so you're kind of looking into it, but this was the window wall or the doors. You're seeing the overhang, the columns are out here. I think this is about 9 feet. So it presents just the natural height difference between the low roof and what we're doing, creates a really interesting backdrop for you to be able to do some really nice stuff graphically. The sports was something that we could kind of plug image wise right off the internet, so we threw it in there, but you could do anything. These are the seating areas, so they're kind of pulled off to the side.
That's just, to me, that's awesome, because when I go in, I've sat in that lobby before, and it is so dark, and it is so, you feel the ceiling just kind of right on top of you, and that is just gonna really open it up and make it so much brighter and so much more inviting.
Yeah, it's an uncomfortable space to be in. It's very loud. That was kind of some of the comments that we got, was it's all hard surfaces, so it's very loud. There's no place to kind of get out.
Right, I think Dr. Dyer, you are now?
So he sent a message and said he's listening and he thinks it looks wonderful.
Okay, that's all we need to know. That's all we need to know.
One thing that I want, Hal sat in on a meeting, was part of a discussion. So one of the ideas that I think is a great idea was taking the opportunity, now that we have this much deeper entrance area, doing some floor graphics to kind of be the timeline of the school history. I'm gonna let Hal jump in and talk about what.
Yeah, we'll be coming to you, back to the board with some of this, and Dr. Elliott and Don are part of a thing with the alumni of Cleveland High School, and this started out with bringing College Hill back into the history of the school, and it's kind of grown into something more, and so it came up that maybe we want to look at, this isn't the graphic necessarily to be used, but I'll let you pass this around. I didn't plan on, probably brought one for everybody, but telling the story of the whole school system, because we started back in 1883, right? So you could take this timeline, and as you enter, you have a graphics in the floor that gives the really important points of Cleveland City Schools. And you see that timeline, you see when Arnold came to be, when College Hill and Arnold came both to become Cleveland High School. But you go back to when it began. And so we have these landmark decisions as you walk in, and then of course the big C up top, our emblem up top. So it gives a presence and a history. And these walls could actually be used on both sides. You have 2 of these walls where the seating, you could have that to display your history. So there's kind of what, that's still very much in the works. That's something that'll have to come to you to get approval. But that was the thought in the front design, is those areas could be the history of Cleveland City Schools and Cleveland High School, and reference, to display what a great school system we have. So I'll leave it at that, but
I like the idea.
and so that's what the floor piece is right there. That's just, eventually we would nail that down, and that would actually be cut in and put into the floor.
My thought was, Charlie, that as the committee met and we talked, that sometimes you are sitting there waiting for a student, or a student is sitting there waiting for a parent, and it would be an opportunity to look at that, and mostly people are gonna walk right over it, but there's an opportunity to kind of hang around there, and what a great thing to have right there on the floor, the whole timeline, to show that Cleveland City Schools have been around a long, long time. Cleveland High School has too, although there were some years there was no Cleveland High School. So we thought, wow, floor would be a great place, because it wouldn't take up any of the graphic abilities to have that up there with whatever.
I think it's great. So as you come in with 1883, it'd be closest to the door. So if we replace the west wing sometime in the future, that you could add to it.
I would say we could leave something. in
Yeah,
there.
there's a lot of space, I think, to
To
be
give
able
the
to.
board an idea from the old wall glass to the new one, how much farther out is it gonna go, Brian? Just, 'cause it's pretty close to inside.
Yeah, I'd say it's about 15 feet, somewhere in that range.
So that wall is gone, the current outside wall is
Yeah,
gone.
we're just gonna
That's
take
what
it out. See, it's not load bearing, so it was something that was put in, I guess, looking back at the old drawings, you used to just kind of come under an awning.
And there were some
And it was
flower
open, yeah.
planters, and they were always
So
full of
then,
trash. It was
But
not
when the
full.
security vestibule was put in, those doors were added, so they, there's no structural tie back to the,
But that
to the
can come
building,
out, and then
yeah.
those are the original doors, but new doors. of course.
yes, and so we put these new columns in and then we build this structure and.
It reminds me of Thomas Bowman Arena with the graphics and wide, real wide.
And for some of your graphics, you could use some of the old annuals from College Hill and Cleveland High School from the very beginning. And they could even maybe be changed out.
Well, it would be very, very
That'd be exciting.
impressionable space,
The committee's talking about a display showing all of that. I don't know if any other decisions have been made, they'll all come to the board, but that's the point, is have a whole display that shows all the College Hill and, up till the opening of this, when they marched from Arnold, starting the school and all that. And have a separate display in the building, so people, students especially, but everybody can look at that. But it wouldn't be right out here in the lobby, which kind of was why we said we wanted the timeline to get some people hooked and let them see the history if they're not gonna go look at the displays. This reminds me, our arena lobby is so beautiful. And that makes me think of that, because it's just inviting when you're in that arena lobby. It's a nice place to be.
Before we go on, we got this and the CTE and then the girls wrestling. But what we're gonna do today, what Hal explained to me last time, we're just gonna hopefully approve these, and then it'll have to go to bid, right?
We'll have to
Instead of
develop the
doing
documents.
3 votes, we're just gonna do one at the end. That's okay, everybody. Same time.
Yeah, we wanted to get this back in front of you guys so you could see the direction, be able to give us comments and feedback on,
We had a rough estimate on that, with the columns or anything, or are we going to?
I haven't looked at it. I mean, we will now that we have a direction, we can look at the value. And the other thing too is the timeline on it. We've had some preliminary conversation on, this affects the school because you have to move the entrance for a period of time. This isn't a project that you can just do during the summer. And a lot of it, I'm sure you guys hear about lead times for things. So, it's probably, it's probably a 4-month project, but you can't get the materials you need in that 4-month period of time. So we'll have to really do some in-depth planning, like the arena, how we're
We'll
able
have
to
to
kind of
work out students around, because this is the ESSER funds. We talked about the ESSER funds before, we got dead hard line, where it has to be met or they don't reimburse for it. So we have to move forward with this, and this is going to require students that, we have students in the building. So we'll have to do, like I said, with the arena, we had to do that.
How much time do we have?
June 30th of 2024 is the last day for the ESSER funds to be handed out. If you don't make it, then you have to find the money to pay for it yourself.
How flexible is the design going to be as far as we're talking about, like the alumni group's going to be doing? It looks like, or sounds like everything's going to be pretty much static. And the reason I'm asking that question is, at some point, we probably would consider digital. That way you can display more history, rotating possibly, and not just the static. So, how flexible will it be?
So I think, as long as somebody's giving us input, we can plan. We'd love to have somebody kind of take it by the horns and say, here's what we want to incorporate, and then we'll build upon that. I would think that, jumping the gun a little bit, we've talked about trying to get the, wrestling center, the Jones Wrestling Center out to bid before school is over. So that, because that one has to be turned back around, no ifs, ands, buts, to be able to use. My plan was to take this project and the CTE project and the connector that Peggy was talking about between the arena and the science wing with the canopies and the fencing, and lump those in together as one project. So, you know, I'm thinking that we would want to get this thing out to bid hopefully by first of summer, knowing it's not going to be done. But so we would have a couple of months to, you know, coordinate and receive input on where we want lighting for displays or where we want power and data. So I would encourage that if
And I think we are looking at incorporating some digital. We'll do alternate bids so that when we take this out, we'll have a primary bid and then we'll have some alternate bids as well. To make sure, you know, that we get everything we can out of this project. So that's the best way to do it. I would say this when we go to bid, and that's why we do the alternate bids the way we do. Pretty much, once we've established what's been successful with Candy Creek and with the arena is once we've established that's what we're doing, we don't change. Where you open the door up is the minute you start making changes or you start opening that design up, you are locked into that contractor. And that's where you open the door up for huge change orders and problems in the future. One of the greatest things that we run into with the Upland design is their plans are so exact, there's very little room for change orders. And so if we hold them accountable to the plans and we hold on to what the original plan is, we will come in, you know, we come in correctly, we come in under budget, and we come in on time. And so that's a big part of being able to do that.
Nate, for your information, because you haven't been with us on a big building project, we have a pretty good contract too. When they go out to bid that the contractors look at, and there's none of this going to bring you a change order every month and add to the cost. It's very detrimental to the contractor to do that. So we don't use the standard. We still don't use the standard one. We have our own, but it's been developed because we've learned over the years with our building projects, you know, how that happens. And so we use that contract and they see it when they bid on it, so they know they're locked into those drawings.
Kristen.
And forgive me if I'm stating the obvious, but as we get more detailed renderings, I'm assuming everything will be very clearly labeled, because I think that's part of the issue that we're dealing with is nobody knows where to go. So we'll have a clearly marked, here's where you need to go if you're a visitor, and those types of things, right?
Yeah, that would be something I would recommend that we talk about during design, because some of that stuff, you know, we can incorporate into the actual construction. Some of it's signage and that sort of thing, but having a plan and putting it all together so it's cohesive is ideal, and we would encourage that. So,
Brian, we're talking about finishing by 2024, so we get the money back. What do you anticipate happening with building costs as far as materials increases?
there's no sign of anything changing at this moment. Everything that we hear is going up.
But once we have a contract, then.
We lock in, yes,
Locked in.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, everything
So
is
the
locked
sooner
in.
we do it, probably the better.
Do you have any more in the entry?
Yes, there's one more,
Mhm.
kind of looking back out.
Oh, beautiful.
So the statue, the Blue Raider statue would be kind of close out there where the bus is, looking straight ahead.
Yeah, I think it's,
It stays where it is. basically.
yeah, it stays where it is. We are going to have to remove 2 trees, the 2 trees closest to the building. You know, so you're still keeping the feel of it, but I'm afraid that if we don't go ahead and we're proactive and take them out, I think we'll damage them. And then you run the risk of having this built and then you've got a tree to deal with. So it'd be my recommendation that we go ahead and take them out. Plus it gives the contractors some space to work around.
I think when Cliff was still at high school, they've added some white benches out there too, adds a little bit to it. And is there the blue flower pots, is that the arena, where are they at?
No, that's not, that's not.
You just got benches out there, like, if you notice those white concrete benches, adds a little bit to it.
One thing too, I think Cliff had brought up when we were talking, you know, there's some vulnerability anytime you have glass, and the fact that this thing is raised up a little bit protects it from somebody driving a vehicle. You know, there's a barrier there. Plus, I think it gives it a dignified look, you know, if you look back in traditional architecture, there's some presence in seeing something up, lifted up, you know.
Yeah, that looks a lot taller looking out than it does looking in.
Yeah, there's some reflection in that. I think, and, you know, we were looking at trying to bring this blue ceiling kind of into the space, so I think it's a little hard to read. I can actually rotate the view a little bit and kind of show you something from the side. But I think it has the
I would like to think this is maybe the step one of incorporating at least 2 of our elementary schools with nicer entries. They seem to be kind of dark and cave-like now, you know, and hard to find. And maybe in the future, you know, if this goes well, maybe we can branch out a little bit and include some of the other schools. And maybe we'll be in our central office, the entrance, it's horrible. I mean, I feel like I have to lean down and crawl in there, you know, and then all the bushes and everything make it even darker.
Any other comments, questions about the high school entrance?
Okay, let's move on to the wrestling center. So I'm just going to go through this quickly. We have had 2 meetings, I believe. We met with athletics, the wrestling coaches. There was probably 8 to 10 people that sat in, and we kind of went through a scope of work. You all know the main piece to this is the addition of the women's locker room, the way that works. And it was kind of, it's a little bit of a challenge just because it's landlocked. There's a big HVAC unit right here. So the only place that we could think of gaining access is through the women's restroom. So there's a door that connects the 2, and then we have 12 lockers, and then we have a new shower, a sink, and a toilet, you know, a compartment. So it's pretty simple. We're trying to make the most out of the space that we have. We had to do some reconfiguration because that mechanical unit is sitting right in here. So we had to kind of shift and pull a little bit. So that's the main piece. We're replacing the signage. The signage is in pretty bad condition. So we're going to put it back the way that it was originally. We're going to patch and repair some of the damage to the insulation in the main assembly area, clean that up, paint the block walls.
Hey, Brian, on the outside of the girls' addition there, it's gonna be the split face block like the rest of the
Yes,
building.
so it'll match, yes.
And that door going into the girls' wrestling, that can be secured, right?
Yes.
Here, okay.
Yeah, so they'll be able to lock it down. A new divider curtain. So the idea was that the divider curtain would be able to allow the boys and the girls some privacy between practices. The girls could go over to the area that's currently in the bleacher zone. We're going to repaint the doors and the frames. We're going to replace this door that's in really bad condition, and we're going to replace, I think, this door. We were adding HVAC for the coach's office, and
We don't have air conditioning and heating in the coach's office now.
That was an office that they came and asked for you to add several years ago, so it was added after the fact as a part of the weight room.
Oh, okay.
And so there was a bathroom and office, but there was never any inclusion. They didn't raise any money for it. It wasn't in the air conditioning.
so it's
Maybe
just
that's the secret to our championships. Is that the coaches don't
sweat
get
equity.
right?
So it's just a very simple mini split wall mounted unit. And then the only other thing was we were going to, these lockers sit on the floor and they're rusted. So we're gonna do it right and put a base, masonry base, lift it up to get them up off the wet concrete floor. And then in that area, the finish is peeling up. And so we're gonna clean that up and put the same resinous finish that's in the arena, the painted finish. So
Let me ask you, on the girls' trip, Doug, you like, and the boys have got 14 weight classes. How many do the girls have?
I'm not sure, but I think
Aren't they less than 12?
yeah, it's 10 or 12.
But the lockers, I mean, hopefully there's gonna be 18 or 20 girls, but there'll be enough for 2 girls hanging their stuff in one locker. I mean, 12 lockers, you know what I'm saying? So they're open.
they're correct. I mean, we can look at some variations. I mean, we
How
could
many
do
do we have
smaller
now, Doug?
lockers,
You know?
benches.
You know how many we have on the team?
I mean, girls?
Do we have more than 12?
Yeah, there's more than 12. They've got about 20, I'd say there's about 20 girls out.
I just, if you got 12 individual lockers, so there's enough books for 2 girls in each locker, I guess what I'm saying.
I think what we talked about where we left that is I owe the coaches a cut sheet on some different, some different styles. But what may need to happen is that you go to a more traditional PE locker that's a little narrower. It's not one you sit in, and then we put some benches in there so that, you know, the girls have a place to put their stuff and lock up. You know, they won't have the traditional, you know, cubby type thing that you can actually sit
I
down.
mean, the first year of the program, we've already got 20 girls, it's probably gonna continue to grow.
Yeah, this would give you some, this would double it. You could put 24 in there.
If why did the lockers rust? Is there a water leak in there?
It's just it's adjacent to the bathroom, so I mean, it's a concrete slab, so it stays moist.
So if you replace it even with masonry, that's still going to rot, is it not, eventually?
Right now, there's straight contact with the floor, so all water goes to the metal base on the bottom. So if you get the metal base lifted up, where it's not coming in contact with the water, you know, from mopping, from everything else, then that'll stop the rot.
They could be treated, you know,
I just
they
wanted to
could
put
be.
something like this on the bottom for them to sit on, and it wouldn't do that.
Mhm. Yeah, typically what we do is we pour a little concrete base
Pour
and lift them
concrete
up.
base?
Yeah,
Okay.
lift them up 6 inches,
Yeah, that would do it.
just so they're not sitting there in contact with the.
Right.
I know bathrooms are plumbed and I understand, but it seems like the existing men's bathroom should go where the women's is. They should be switched. And then that would lead right into the male locker room, and also then the women's would be right. I mean, it seems weird to have the men's bathroom right there. I mean, it's there now, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Can you switch those bathrooms?
Point, Brian, what she's talking about, please.
Talking about existing
two,
men's,
right.
existing women's. Then this is the locker room, but this is actually the team restrooms. So this is where
So that's just business.
yeah.
Pretty much, okay. Cause it just seemed weird to have that stuck down there.
Yeah, I understand.
No,
So say that again, this is teams?
This would be the male restroom area for the actual wrestlers.
Team.
Yeah. And then this is the CHS, boys wrestling.
you don't have much room on that side. to put
'Cause there's
much
what?
of anything
No.
else.
Shower area,
Shower area
toilet,
and-
some
and
sinks.
toilets, yeah.
Yeah, but that's for the boys.
And we have to provide that?
So where you got the girls' new dressing room at, we don't have to move the units outside, right?
We're doing everything in our power to work around it.
We don't want to get into that.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you know, there was discussion about trying to add more lockers, but, you know, we've run out of real estate with the edge of the building being here, not being able to take it back. And we had to create this notch, which took some space out just because the unit sits here and we've got to create some clearance because it's got to be accessible for maintenance.
Is it just the high school that uses our wrestling building?
We got the higher calling kids club, like the,
Yeah, those are middle school kids.
and a lot of them elementary.
That's what I'm
Sounds great,
wondering. Is it large enough to accommodate all those different groups? We didn't used to have that. middle
Well,
school group, did we?
the middle school has their own program,
They-
but the higher calling is like elementary kids. They just come and go basically, right, Doug? I mean,
Yeah, it's the higher calling is anywhere from, about second grade or so, all the way through high school, because they still, even our high school kids and our middle school kids still compete in higher calling. But during the season, they're with Cleveland High or Cleveland Middle School. So it depends on what time of the year you're talking about. I mean, they wrestle 13 months out of the year.
So they just have to schedule so that it doesn't conflict, so they have enough room for.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they make it. But the little guys, they just come and go, or little girls, whatever. I mean, it's not like you're providing maybe them. Questions, other ones about this future girls wrestling?
I think Al, you've already, or you're planning on painting the block on the exterior.
Yeah, we've already painted the exterior of the building. We had that done since going into wrestling season, and since you approved it at the meeting, we did go ahead and paint the exterior because it was looking pretty rough, so that has been done, already, so.
So our new walls would match that.
Match it.
Yeah, the tie-in.
Maybe I can plant a seed for the future. We have a gym right here that the floor has been ruined in it since it was refinished at one time. It's a storage building now. And we have facilities here. It's already under roof and everything. Maybe this would be a good place to kind of start thinking about putting the women's wrestling down here,
I think that's a good idea to think about, because we don't have any space to expand here. As that program grows and we get more and more kids, we're going to run out of space.
Yeah, you're landlocked.
We're
I
landlocked.
mean, you have to come out to the Raider Drive and take up parking to be able to do anything.
I've heard several people say that they're really crowded now over there, trying to accommodate all these different groups. So it might be something to think about.
Yeah, sometimes.
That made me think, one other thing, Hal mentioned bid alternates on the entrance project. We would be doing a bid alternate to redo the lighting in the assembly area. So as a bid alternate, we'll have a price to be able to replace what's there with LED lighting. So if the money's right, that could be added to, which would make a big improvement. Okay, any other questions here?
Anybody else? CTE.
Okay, CTE. All right, so this one, again, funded with some ESSER funding. I think, Hal, if I say anything wrong, interrupt, but this is an opportunity to reduce some of the load of students coming and going through the main entrance, the students or outside people coming in to visit, teach, whatever, can use this entrance. So we're creating a new secure entrance area.
Right, just so they know that that's the same two doors are there, right?
Correct.
You know where the CTE sign on the side of the building there, that's the two doors right beside.
So these are the existing exterior doors, and the idea was to create a vestibule. Okay, it's already under roof, and so this would become the new office area, the director's office. This is a check-in window, and basically this is enough space for 2 work areas and then some collaborative meeting / conference area. So that's the first piece. We've got a rendering to show you what this would look like. Some other features that have been discussed. I think currently these restrooms are in pretty poor condition, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think their primary use is to serve the faculty. They're not student restrooms. So through some discussions, the idea came up because we were taking the office from this area and moving it here. We already had plumbing in this area. We could repurpose this space as new faculty restrooms, and they could be just what we call single hole room, door to be able to get in and do that here, and then turn these back over for students, which to me makes a lot of sense because then students are having to travel back into the east wing, would save time. So that's been discussed. That's noted here, the new staff restrooms. The other idea is, and we see it big in higher education, and I think you guys do a great job with the CTE programs, compared to what we see in other systems. But the idea of displaying, what's going on in those spaces is really big now. We see science on display, all these things collegiately. And so the idea of putting windows from the corridor to be able to see some of these really neat things, engineering, auto mechanics, robotics, all those things, that's the concept. We've just talked about opportunities. We still have field work to go in and see where those opportunities are best located to be able to do that, because in all these spaces, they're using all the walls. There's services, there's some reconfiguration that would have to take place. But anyways, that's the concept, is that this would begin to display itself from the hallways. And then we've also talked about the idea of making this wing maybe a little more industrial, as far as in the ceilings, opening it up and doing some exposed structure with lighting and things like that to create that vibe that you see in these types of spaces. So the next slide, any questions here on the plan as far as
Cliff, where that new office is, what class, is that health science or what is that there?
Vicky Davis's area is down in that area. Vicky's classroom, but it's
Cosmetology. I mean, is she gonna go into where they do the hair, nails, and everything now? I mean, are we gonna lose that? I mean, we'll lose that, right? So,
I don't know where that would move to. I don't know if the viability of that program.
I mean, could cosmetology office go into where their lab is?
Yeah, currently that's where cosmetology is, and she'll take the students over to do some classroom work in that smaller area, but she can continue in that area as cosmetology.
I do something in there, yeah.
Now, one of the things is that as we know that our courses continue to change too, so, that we'll have to evaluate that in the future too, as far as how that's structured. But yeah, she could work out of her room where she's doing her cosmetology currently in that larger room across the hall there.
Board, any other comments, questions?
the next slide.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, so we're trying to take some of that same language, but simplify it because it's a secondary entrance. But, we know you do some graphics over there, so we could tie the graphics to this entrance piece. For some reason, it's really dark, but, this would be very transparent. You can kind of see there, that's where the new check-in window is, and the existing doors that create that secure vestibule gives you a little bit of overhang, which is good. So.
That tells everybody that we have that, they see it when everybody goes through that parking lot. I like that.
Okay, I think that's the last one, isn't it? Yeah, okay.
Dr. Dyer commented on all these, Cody, or anything else?
He hasn't said anything else.
So what you need from us is to approve these concepts today, so you can get it out to bid, is that right?
Yeah, we need to take the next step, which is to bring engineers on board and start doing even more field investigation and sorting through how to take the concept to reality, what we do behind the scenes.
My opinion, Upland Design's done a really nice job. I think it's pretty impressive. Both entryways and the girls' restroom, and their work around that HVAC unit. I mean, it's impressive. You'll be able to CTE there, and it's going to stand out, I think.
It's exciting. Can't wait to see it all happen.
Well, I mean, if you guys have ideas on how to take it to the next level and you want to be involved, we certainly, would encourage to get input. As far as scheduling, that probably needs to take place. Typically what we do on all these is we'll come back and we'll sit down and we'll talk about, where the power is and what the HV, we'll bring engineers on site and work through those things. And those are the type of meetings that we've had on Science Wing and the arena and even Candy's Creek, where we make it yours, we custom tune it so that it fits and that it's, it's what it needs to be the first time.
We get so many compliments on the look of the science wing and Raider Arena. Of course, Raider drives a busy street in Cleveland, and so a lot of cars pass by there, and, so y'all have done a fantastic job designing that, and it's just pretty to look at, impressive. So I'm excited that our high school will have an entrance.
Right.
It looks like an entrance. That's very nice.
Any other comments, questions? I need a motion to approve Brian's concept, right? Will we get it out to bid, right?
Yeah, to proceed towards having developed a bid document.
Okay, Tucker. And second.
I'm sorry.
Second. Cloud, second.
I second.
You're on our committee. Are you the third one? No, you're the alternate. I think we're trying to figure it out.
I don't know. But if I'm not.
We have an alternate too, don't we?
Alternate.
Kristen. She can think she was.
We're gonna change it again next month, so, you know.
This is just a committee, right? You know this? Everybody in favor? Yes. That's still a thumbs up. Yes. Yeah, that's, only question I got on January 27th, you're doing the track bids?
Yeah.
You want to come back to the February meeting so we can approve that?
Yes.
Okay.
No,
Well, does that,
you've already approved that.
We don't have to approve it even after the bid.
You've already approved the.
You're gonna let us know how it came out and everything, and who got it?
we can provide the results.
And we'll try to get you on the first part, right, Julie? So he get back to Crossville. Anybody else got anything? We're adjourned.
Dr. Dyer did want me to share with you that he has decided to call school off again tomorrow because of our staffing shortages. We are asking our admin and program employees to come to work and have a few meetings and work through what our next steps are for them to get through this stage here. So, but he is going to close.
Just tomorrow, I
For
know.
tomorrow. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Do you have any idea how many teachers are ill?
Yeah, well, we have 95 that we have staff members who are just even COVID related.